So this is my fourth devlog on habits layer, and although we talked about some very interesting things in the past devlogs like the monsters, the problems with monetization, and generally just the whole plans of the app and where it's going, we haven't actually looked at any code, which kind of goes against the point of doing a devlog because there hasn't been anything dev related. And so in this devlog, I want to change that, and I actually want to dive with you into the code and show you some of the systems that are powering this application here. Now, if you're new here, well, first of all, welcome. I'm really happy that you're here. My name is Darius, and I built RuneScape-inspired gamified apps and even hopefully games. And today we're talking about Habits Layer, which is my RPG habit tracker. This is half a habit tracker to track habits to improve yourself and half a fully fledged RPG. And today we're going to dive deep into the combat system that is powering this entire app/game. So let's get right into it because I'm really excited to show you how all of this works. So this is what Habits Layer currently looks like as I'm working on it right now. This, like I said, is an RPG habit tracker, and the whole concept is you basically slay monsters with your habits, right? Kind of like the Slayer skill in old school RuneScape. You have all of the habits here that you want to do, and then you have the monster that you're currently fighting. In this case, I'm fighting the imp here, and basically every single time that you do a habit, you're basically dealing damage to the monster, and the monster is going to hit you back. So for example, right, I can come in here and I have this explore habit slayer habit here. I can check it off over here, and you can see I hit the imp for 3 HP, and the imp also hit me for 2 HP, and I have here my HP reduce. Although it did not work, I do have this problem when I'm in development mode, but just trust me, this works. Essentially, that's the whole loop, right? You do your habits, you fight monsters, and then you progress to better monsters over and over. Now, in this devlog, what I want to focus on is the actual damage calculation that goes on behind the scenes. Because although this looks very simple, right? And although this is a habit tracker, I really went ham with like all of the damage and all the calculations, especially considering the fact that you have attributes over here, right? So this is my character. I have all of these attributes over here, and you also have gear that you can actually equip, and you have attack bonuses and defense bonuses. So for example, if I come in here and I equip this bronze sword over here, you're going to see I just need to refresh because this always happens when I'm developing. Bear with me. Now I'm going to go back here, and you're going to see hopefully that my attack bonus has increased to 4 because of the bronze sword, which has some attributes. If I go here, it has a 4 attack bonus. So all of this gets calculated alongside your attributes here to the actual damage that you deal to a monster. And also a monster, if I go here to see the actual monster, let's go here to the imp that we're currently fighting. Also, the monster has attributes, and the monster also has attack and defense bonuses, and these all factor into, again, how much damage you are dealing and how much damage you are receiving back. And so although this is a habit tracker, there's like a whole strategy, a whole RPG layer going on there, and it really matters what attributes you currently have and also what equipment you currently are wielding. So let's get right into the code, and let me show you how this is actually developed so that we can see how this is actually going on. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to open, I think I had it open previously. Yeah, this is, by the way, this application here, this is obviously not a game engine. So this is not Unity or Unreal or Godot or anything like that. This is like an application, and I'm using a application framework called React Native to basically build applications for iOS and Android using TypeScript. So the language that we're looking at here is TypeScript. And this is the function that creates a habit entry. So whenever you're here and whenever you complete a habit, you're essentially creating a habit entry. And the reason why it's called a habit entry is because these habits here, they basically go by the date. Here we're on the March 26th, right? Essentially, if I go back here to another date, I have the same habits, or depending on if they're due that day or not. And when I create them, it creates a habit entry for that date, right? So that's why we have these entries here. And you can see here, I received the date as an argument to this function. This one takes in a bunch of other arguments as well, and then does a bunch of things related to the habit, checking that you have a character, gets all the things needed to be able to create the entry and so on. What we're really interested in, however, is this get habit entry rewards function here, which is basically handling all of the rewards that you get from a habit entry, including the monster damage, including all of the items that you get, including even some other things here, for example, that are based on the habit difficulty and stuff like that. So let's open this function and let's look at what we have here. So this function is a pretty big function, but it's calling other functions, so it's a little bit kind of well organized, if you will. This one over here, right, it gets the XP that you get from completing the habit because you just by default get experience for completing the habit. It then checks your current level and your new level based on the XP that you got, and then basically tracks here. I believe I have the level somewhere. Yeah, it checks here, did you gain a new level? So I can basically show this in the UI. And then over here, we're also defaulting the monster damage, the monster hit damage, and then if the monster was defeated or not, and also some of the rewards that you get from the monsters, including coins and potentially some items. So these then get actually populated here in the body of this function here, and specifically this is the block here that we're actually interested in when it comes to the monster itself. Even up to here, I believe at this point, this checks, do we have an active monster here? Because the way that the application currently works is you don't have to have a monster to complete your habits. I can come in here, I can go here. Now in this case, I'm in a dungeon, but it's still the same. We're still fighting monsters. I can abandon this dungeon over here, right? And go back, and now I don't have any dungeon, any monster active, but I can still complete a habit. In that case, I just get the experience for completing the habit. I also get the coins for completing the habit and my streak as well, but I don't get any of the monster stuff, right? So at the end of the day, the monsters and the dungeons are optional, and if you don't want to do them, you don't have to, right? So if we have an active monster, then we're gonna get the actual monster from the template. So I have this stored in like a file with all the monsters and all of the properties. I'm gonna get here the remaining health of the monster, right? Because as you're doing damage, the monster gets less and less health. And then here, we're gonna go to get monster entry damage. This will calculate the amount of damage that I've done to the monster. So let's open up this function and let's see what we have. So this is the get monster entry damage. So over here, we're taking in the character, we're taking in the monster template, the remaining health of the monster, and also is first rat fight. This is over here because if it's your first rat fight, the rat is the first monster in Habits layer. Basically, what we're doing is you're gonna kill the monster one hit. This is meant to be like an easy onboarding to get you that feeling of like, ooh, I want to kill a rat. Because the rat here, if I go to the monsters here, the rat has, I believe, yeah, it has 2 HP. And when you're all level 1, you do not hit a 2. You would hit a 1. And so you would need 2 hits, 2 habits to actually defeat the rat. And so to kind of not make that a little bit hard in the beginning, especially on your first monster, if it's your first rat fight ever, you're just automatically going to be killing the rat. And the damage that you deal is basically going to be whatever health the rat has. In our case, it was 2. Otherwise, we continue here and then we do all of the calculations for the damage. So this is the base damage over here. It gets instantiated here as 0. And then here, we're going to get your combat stats. So the combat stats here, if I can just open up this function here, this is over here, your melee attack bonus, ranged attack bonus, magic attack bonus, all of that, and your defense bonuses. I get those based on the actual equipment that you're currently wearing, which is basically what you saw here. All of this calculation here, these are the values that get returned from this function here. So we return that, so we have the character combat stats, and then we check what type of damage is it, because the type of damage actually matters whenever you're fighting. So this depends. Let me see here, the type over here. Where do I calculate the type? Yeah, it's here. We skipped over this. Get equipped weapon type. Here I pass the character inventory. So I'm looking, what are you currently equipping? Are you equipping a ranged weapon? If so, the attack type is ranged. Are you equipping a magic weapon? If so, it's magic, otherwise it's melee. This is because your attributes over here, right? If I go back here, these over here map to different types of weapons. So strength over here maps to melee. Obviously, this makes sense. Dexterity over here maps to ranged, right? And then intelligence maps to magic. And so if you have a high level of strength, you better be equipping a melee type weapon so that this statistic over here can actually be the one that is used to deal damage. If not, if you're wearing a staff, for example, then we look at your intelligence and that's the damage that you deal, right? Which I think kind of makes sense, right? You want to wear the actual equipment that matches based on your statistics. So that's kind of the system that we have in place. So based on, let me just open this up again. Based on the type over here, if it's type melee, then we check here the strength level. So we just get your level from the experience because your strength over here is actually stored as a number, not the level itself, but the amount of experience that you get. And then I have here a simple function that just basically converts the actual experience to a level using this function over here. So that's how you get the XP levels inside of Habits layer. And then we're basically going to roll the damage here using your strength level. And let me see what this roll damage function here does. And yeah, it gets your max hit over here based on your level using this formula over here. So this is pretty simple, right? And it basically randomizes it so that you hit any number in between 1 and that max hit. There's no instances now where you don't hit at all, just like you would have in RuneScape. You never hit a 0. I had that previously, but but it felt wrong because you were doing a habit and you were missing an attack, and then it just felt like your habit was wasted, and I didn't want that feeling, so I removed it, but I kept it for the monster. The monster can actually miss, which if it does, you're lucky, and then you just don't get hit that round. And then we assign that roll damage to the base damage, and we do the same exact thing with ranged and magic based on your levels over here. Then we also calculate the attack bonus for the specific type. So we pass here the character combat stats and the type as well, and then we get the attack bonus over here. And this over here, you're going to see that we just return the simple attack bonus based on your stats over here. And once we have that, we then calculate your defense bonus, and then we also calculate finally the damage based on your base damage, the attack bonus, and the monster defense. This is actually, the monster defense. That's how it gets compared into. And let's see what this is like. I haven't looked at this in a while, but we're basically getting a multiplier for the attack using this get attack damage multiplier function, doing the same thing for defense, and then we're simply rounding the base damage times the multipliers over here. The get attack damage multiplier here gets a stat multiplier, so this is what the function looks like. You can do the math on your own to see how it kind of calculates. We do that for the attack, we also do that for the defense in reverse, and then we just multiply these things together with the base damage, and that's your whole damage, right? So basically, the higher your attack multiplier, the more damage you're going to deal. The higher the defense multiplier of the monster, the less damage you are going to deal, and that kind of makes sense. And that's our final damage, and then we simply do a minimum of either the final damage or the monster remaining health, right? So if you hit higher than the monster has available in health, you are going to hit whatever the monster currently has in health, and that is exactly what gets returned here to this monster damage function. And after that, this just gets put here on the rewards object, which remember we created here at the top with all of the rewards that you get for a habit entry. And then we're also doing some other monster related things, right? Like we're checking, is the monster defeated based on its remaining health over here? And if it is, we're going to get you the monster reward. So I can quickly show you that over here. Basically, all of the attributes, so this is any XP that you get from the monster, any coins, any diamonds, any items, and we basically just map over all of the things over here and just return whatever you might be getting for the monsters. I believe over here this is incomplete because currently no monster is giving you any specific XP and no monster is giving you any specific diamonds because as you can see here, we're not doing anything. We're just doing things with the coins and the items. So these should actually be removed, but it's fine. They can be there. They don't really affect anything. We're not using them inside of the UI. And if ever I do want to change that and add these types of rewards later on, I can easily do that. And then once we have that, something that I'm currently working on, as you saw here, if I can just go back, right, we have dungeons here. They are nearly complete. I'm very excited about this, and this is kind of how they work. So I can go here to the goblin camp, for example, start a dungeon. This is going to start a dungeon and a monster because at the end of the day, dungeons are fighting monsters. And this is what this looks like. You see a little bit the dungeon in the background, which I really like. And if we're inside of a dungeon here, then we're also going to check if the dungeon has been completed and also assign some of the rewards from the dungeon because dungeons do have rewards that are extra bonus on top of defeating the monsters. But these are work in progress, so don't take this as the final version. But I do want to show you something really cool that I've been working on, which is all of the dungeon exclusive items that you can get only from completing a dungeon. For example, the Dragon's Head Black over here. This is a dungeon exclusive. You can only get this by defeating this dungeon over here, and it drops at a 5% rate. So you have to do this multiple times to get it. But if you do, it's a unique item. And honestly, I think that it looks really cool. And again, why does this always happen when I'm in development mode? It should be working. Let me try again. Let's go back here. Let's go to the Dragon Head Black. Let's preview it. And there you go. It works. Doesn't this look super, super cool? So there you go. That's how the combat system works in Habit Slayer. It is more on the simpler side, but again, we are inside of a habit tracker. This is not a full-blown RPG, but there's still some depth to it and some strategy where you have to equip the right weapons and then also make sure that your statistics are correct to be able to maximize the damage that you deal to a monster based on its attributes and your own. Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about the system, if there's anything that you would like to see improved or even changed or something maybe that I haven't thought about. I'm all open and I will read and answer every single one of you guys' comments. So that's it for this devlog. Thank you so much for watching. I'm really excited to keep working on this, and I'm also very excited to be launching the dungeons very soon. They're, again, as I said, nearly complete, so I'm super excited. And yeah, I will be seeing you in the next devlog. Ciao, ciao.